What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Dazzle video. Today is a great day because we are going to be talking about the mentality of playing Dazzle. I think Dazzle is one of the most mentally challenging heroes to play in Dota. As a person who's lasted 12 years playing Dazzle so far, I want to give maybe newer players some tips on how to handle some of the tougher mental aspects of playing Dazzle. We're going to go over three things. What's so different about playing Dazzle compared to other heroes? Practically, three things you can do to mentally prepare yourself to play the hero. And then we're going to talk about Babysitting Syndrome. What is it and how do you get rid of it? Dazzle is a very unique hero. He is the only hero in the game that can prevent death from level 1. And he can prevent death on a low cooldown throughout the rest of the game. Dota players, and by the way, I'm talking about Dota players because this video is about Dazzle, who is a Dota hero, but this is a human trait. These people are everywhere. I'm talking about toxic people. This happens everywhere in society, in the world. You go to the gym, there's toxic people. You go to work, there's toxic people. You go to school, there's toxic people. It's not just Dota players, but I'm going to be labeling them Dota players because this is a Dota video. When things go wrong or something bad happens, Dota players immediately look around and try to find a way to explain what happened without exposing their own mistakes or their lack of skill. By the way, there's literally nothing wrong with making mistakes or lacking skill. It's all part of the game. We all lack skill. There's no human that has perfect skill. It's impossible. Dota is an infinitely complex game. Even if you're a professional Dota player, you know everything about everything in the game, you know every unit, every mechanic, every spell, every damage, cooldown, cast range, HP regen, mana cost, movement speed, attack speed, crit chances, the infinite combinations of heroes and spells and items, and all the interactions between everything, you can never predict what random people in your games are going to do. You don't know these people, you're never going to know these people, these are all random folks. Like off the top of my head, I can think of a bunch of different ways to play Dazzle every single game. I can play a ranged right clicker with Ether Lens, Dragon Lance, Shard. I can play a ranged spellcaster with Ether Lens and Ags. I can play more of an up close and personal right click build with Manta, Mage Slayer, Deso. I can play more of a defensive style with like a Ether Lens, Glimmer Cape, Ghost Scepter. I can play a little more defensive but closer to the enemy up in your face like a Yules, a Force Staff, Guardian Greaves. There's like literally infinite number of ways that you can play every game, and that goes for every other hero in the game. There's way too many variables to keep track of, understand, predict, and how are you going to win each game. So the reason I say that is when your teammates generalize a reason why they lost a particular Dota game, it's impossible to know why you lost or won a particular Dota game. Nobody freaking knows. So what does this all mean? When you play Dazzle, you are the easiest target for bad things that happen. And guess what, guys? Out of all the things that can go wrong, what's the easiest thing to point out? Deaths. Everyone can see how many times you died in each game. So Dazzle becomes the poster boy for bad things happening in games. It doesn't bother them that they've died in a Dota game. Guys, how many times do heroes die in Dota games? It happens all the time. It's part of the game. But for Dota players, it bothers them that other people are going to look down on them because they died. So in order to counter that thought in their mind, they are going to try and announce to the world that it wasn't their lack of skill that led to them dying. It was Dazzle's lack of skill. I'm sure every single Dazzle player in the world has gone through this thousands of times and can agree with me on this. When your allies ping your shallow grave, it is the most annoying thing in the world. They're pinging it so the other people in the game don't think that that person sucks. They want to say Dazzle sucks. It was Dazzle's fault. Dazzle should have graved me. And he should have known that I was going to farm my ancients, and he should have TP'd from wherever he was, because there is absolutely no way that what he is doing is more important than what I was doing. Dazzle should have known that I was going to blink into the backline of a team fight and snuck his way past all the other heroes in the team fight, and he should have graved me. Dazzle should have known that I wouldn't buy BKB even though there's multiple silences and stuns on the other team, and should have been right next to me the entire fight and healed me and graved me and given me armor, and that's why I bought 6 rapiers. Dazzle should have known that I was going to farm deep into the enemy jungle, and he should have just followed me into the enemy jungle and graved him over there. It's absolutely ridiculous, but in the moment, to Dota players, it makes total sense to them. So practically, what are 3 things you can do to mentally prepare yourself to play the hero? The first thing you can do is understand what toxic players' mindsets are. Even just knowing that people will blame you for everything helps a lot to prepare you for games mentally. I had to learn this the hard way. Back when I was a Herald player, I took my teammates' advice seriously, and I really genuinely thought people were trying to help each other in the game of Dota. I had no idea that they were just finding ways to blame others for their misplays or their mistakes. Just remember, guys, you are playing with toxic, immature people. That's just the way it is, and that's the way it's gonna be. It is not your job to change their personality or their mindset. I guarantee you, a lot of these people yelling at me during my games 10 years ago are still stuck in Herald and Guardian because their mindset doesn't allow them to improve. And that brings me to my second point. If you want to play better or win more games, then study other good players and analyze what they do better and why. This can be professional matches. You can watch highly ranked live matches on the watch tab in Dota, or just other YouTube videos. It doesn't mean everything they do is better than what you're doing, but have an open mind to learning if there's anything that you can improve on. For example, this YouTube channel, Nene Dazzle, exists to help Dazzle players. I made this channel because I don't want you guys to make the same mistakes that I made over the last 12 years. In those 12 years, I've played Dazzle through all the different patches and through all the different ranks. I played Dazzle with and against Heralds, Guardians, Crusaders, Archons, Legends, Ancients, Divines, and finally Immortals. And I also realized I can learn and improve my play by interacting with other Dazzle players and by practicing putting my thoughts onto pen and paper and making videos. The third practical thing you can do is ignore player chats and pings. I've said this before on my channel, but this is the #1 way to improve. You can not only focus on your own gameplay and identify things that you want to work on and work on those things each game, but it also helps you get rid of the distractions of pings and chats from your allies. I do see the value in some pings. For example, teams grouping up to take Roche, teams grouping up for a smoke. However, I do believe that there are times in the game that are correct for taking those objectives. So you should know when to take Roche. You should know when to take a tower. So that kind of game sense is something that you can develop over time. But if you really want to see pings, option 2 is just to mute people in the beginning of each game. That way you can still hear their pings, but you can't see their chats. The last thing we're going to talk about is babysitting syndrome. Babysitting syndrome is your subconscious need to save all of your allies at all stages of the game, no matter where they are on the map. I know that you've all felt the guilt of your mid lane getting solo killed while you play position 5, and then you look at the lane and you say, damn, if I had TP'd and cast Grave and saved them and turned the fight, and now my mid lane would have a level advantage on their mid laner, and they would get all these last hits and they wouldn't lose all this gold. Guys, it is not your responsibility to save all of your allies all the time. Specifically in the laning stage, guys, this is how I deal with the babysitting syndrome voice in my head, because I have it every game. I tell myself, do not turn one bad lane into 2 bad lanes. If your lane is doing okay or fine or even good, but another lane is struggling, and you feel that you are, as a Dazzle player, have to TP into that lane and save that lane and turn the lane, all that you're going to do is you're going to TP to the other lane, and then you're going to take your own starting lane, and that lane is going to turn into crap. So you've now taken one bad lane. Let's say your off lane is struggling and you're playing in the safe lane. If you TP to your off lane, I guarantee you, your safe lane is going to struggle. And the chances of you actually turning your off lane into a good lane is 0. So all you've done is you've taken one bad lane and turned it into 2. Don't do that. When you see a lane that is struggling, most of the time, just let it be. In fact, it's probably their responsibility to rotate to other lanes to take the pressure off of their own lane. It is not Dazzle's responsibility. During the rest of the game, I will say it again, it is not your responsibility to save all of your teammates all the time. For example, if your offlaner blinks in to a team fight and forgets to press BKB and dies, or your carry is farming in a dangerous position and gets caught out and dies, it has nothing to do with your ability to shallow grave them. Every core hero has their own responsibility to itemize and play against whatever lineup they are playing against. And Dazzle's job is to enhance their play by graving them and healing them on top of all their items and their skills that each teammate has. The goal of the game is to win the game, not to prevent a teammate from dying. If an ally goes 15-0 because you just sat behind them and just graved them all game, but you lost, Dazzle isn't being used to his full potential. Dazzle is a hero that can slow enemies, do potentially infinite physical damage over time with Poison Touch, push creep waves really quickly and create pressure on the map, can farm jungle camps fairly quickly with Poison Bloom, do burst physical damage with Shadow Wave, take Tormentors fairly early, and help secure Roche, hex enemies with your Shard, can also hex multiple other enemies by right-clicking with Poison Bloom, you can heal allies on a low cooldown, you can give armor to allies, you can take away armor from enemies, and you can scale throughout the game by being able to lower your cooldowns of all your spells. Saving heroes during team fights is one of the many things that Dazzle can do, not the only thing. The sooner you understand that, the more fun Dazzle games will become, and the more you will get out of the hero, and the bigger the impact you will have on games. Well guys, this may be one of the most important videos I ever make. I cannot tell you how much I wish I knew all this stuff when I first started playing Dazzle. So I really hope that this gives you a better perspective when playing Dazzle, and even though it has nothing to do with your skill, your understanding of timings, reaction times, facets, skill points, teamfight positioning, or item builds, mentality is more important than all of them combined. Because if you don't have a good mentality, Dota becomes very negative, and then you just won't want to play Dazzle anymore. And that is literally the saddest thing of all. At the end of the day, guys, we're all in this together. Whether it's your first Dazzle game or your 10,000th Dazzle game, we can all do our best to win, to have fun, and to learn from our mistakes so we are better players the next game. I hope you guys are having a great day wherever you are, and good luck in your next games as Dazzle. Let's do this!